All right, welcome to today's session of Power Session with Jumoke. This is the 14th edition. It focuses on highlighting important topics in project management, especially PMP, but it also serves as a source of knowledge acquisition for those that are already certified or those that don't want to be certified, but they want to learn. And 1 hour of this session would attract or you would earn 1 PDU. So if you are interested in the PDU, immediately after the session, please send your name, your first name, your last name, your PMI ID, not your PMP ID, your PMI ID, and that would enable us assign the PDU to you and give us about 48 hours after which you have not sent your PDU, you can get in touch to follow up. Today's session is on schedule management basics. I try to give a topic, make it interesting. This is just the schedule management that you know in PMP. You can scan this to chat with me. So it's advisable you scan it now so that you can send me your PMI ID, your first name, and your last name. That is if you have any of the PMI certifications. If you do not have certification, you don't need PDU. All right. So today's agenda, we will define activities. We will see how to sequence tasks and then estimating durations. 2, we'll look at critical path, float, and milestones. 3, we'll look at scheduling in predictive approach and agile approach. And then 4, we'll look at some key exam traps or tips and takeaways. And then, of course, practice questions. I have 10 questions for you today. All right, so let's roll. The objective of this session is that by the end of this session, you will be able to define activities, estimate durations, and sequence tasks according to PMI processes. 2, you will understand critical path, float, and milestones. And 3, you would apply scheduling principles in predictive approach and agile environment. And 4, you will recognize PMI traps and apply correct reasoning. It is important for you to be able to tell that these are the traps in these questions and avoid them for you to be able to select the right option. So let's roll. The first subtopic today is define activities, sequence task, estimate duration. So the first one is define activities. For you to be able to define activities, you need to have done your WBS, work breakdown structure. We know that work breakdown structure is the disintegration or decomposition of the project into smaller chunks, and we call these chunks work packages. The lowest part of WBS, that's work breakdown structure, are the work packages. And so for you to be able to define activities, you need to break down this lowest part of the WBS, which are the work packages, break them down into their respective activities. So let's say you are building and you say the first you have 3 bedrooms and you broke it down to, let's say, woodwork, concrete work, pipe works, and all that. And so concrete work, you start with a foundation. So that is a work package. Foundation, what are the activities there? You would have to dig. You have to mix the concrete. You would have to pour the concrete. You have to put rods, So these are the activities of the work package concrete foundation. After you have listed all the activities in all the work packages, you have them defined. That is how you break it down. And the tools that you will use in defining activities is decomposition, like the WBS, and then you break down the work packages, as well as rolling wave planning. Rolling wave planning means that if the example I gave, you will not start thinking of the color of the bathroom, the color you are going to paint the bathrooms in the 3 bedrooms when you have not started the work. So as you get, the near activities will be planned into details, and the far end activities will be high level planned. That's what rolling wave planning is. So these are the tools you will use in defining activities. And of course, the output of defined activities will be 1 activity list, 2 activity attributes. That is what you will use in describing, distinguishing the respective activities. And then the milestone list, so that you can tell once this is done, especially for predictive methodology, where as you complete milestone, you deliver report and then like updates. All right. So this is what you do when you are defining activities. You break down, you use decomposition, you use rolling wave planning, and of course the output will be activity list and its corresponding items. So now you have your activities. What is next? You will sequence them. You will arrange them in logical manner. Okay, so you will not start pouring concrete when you have not mixed. You have to first mix the concrete in the right proportion. You will not say you are laying blocks when you have not made the foundation and allow it to dry in the number of required days before you start laying blocks. You cannot start painting when you have not completed plastering. So when you define your activities, let's say you have your activities in a container like this, all the activities. So you'll be picking each activity and arranging them in a logical manner, arranging them, sequencing them. So you determine logical order using dependencies. And this is where finish to start, which is the commonest, start to finish, finish to finish, and start to finish. The start to finish is the rarest of the dependencies, and the finish to start is the commonest of the dependency. So you need to have the list and work with the people that will do the work in sequencing, in arranging. This is important because after you finish the arrangement, you will come with the duration and then be able to determine what your critical path would be. So also be mindful that the dependencies, we have types: mandatory, discretionary. Mandatory, you don't have your way around it. You have to have your foundation in place before you start laying blocks. Discretionary, let's say you have the plumber, you have the electrician. The electrician needs to lay pipes to pass the cables into. The plumber also needs to lay pipe before he or she connects the fixtures. They are different things, they are different functions. So you can actually make them work together. The plumber and the electrician working. So this is discretionary. You can also say no. If they both came together, they will be distracting and it could lead to chaos. So I want the electrician to come first before the plumber. So you, the project manager, can use your discretion on tasks like that. But those that are mandatory, you don't have a choice. Then you could also have dependency that is external to the project. You also don't have a choice. If a government says you have to take a permit for you to before you can start work, it falls under mandatory. You don't have control over that. If it's also internal, you may also use your discretion because you may have control over it. So this are what you should know when it comes to sequencing. And of course, now you have your activities, you have sequenced them using logical order. Now you need to estimate activity duration. Each of the activities, how long will it take? And so you can use analogous, which is historical data. It's not that accurate. So you can say, okay, let's say today I got an order to sew robe for a choir of 250 members. And I did this 2 years ago. I can say, okay, when I did it 2 years ago, I used average of 4 yards per robe, and it was 2 Ghana cedis. So it means for each person is 2 times 4 for the row, 8 cedis. So I've used historical data. But the cost of fabric in 2025 may not be the same as 2023. That's why we say that it is less accurate. I can also use parametric. Parametric is just 2 times 3 equals this, and this is productivity rate. However, it does not factor in experience or lessons learned, and it can lead to waste because we know that the choir members are not of the same size. So if I use a flat rate of 4 yards per a choir member, it could lead to waste. All right, so analogous, parametric, and then 3-point estimating. Of course, when you're using 3-point estimating, you have the optimistic, most likely, pessimistic, but there are 2 kinds. Often people don't pay attention. You have the triangular, which is like an average, which is optimistic plus most likely plus pessimistic divided by 3, because there are 3 variables. But the PET is a weighted average. So you have optimistic plus 4 times most likely plus pessimistic divided by 6, because there are now 6 variables. So be mindful when you are deploying or you are asked to calculate 3-point estimating. Check to be sure whether it's triangular or it is PET, and PET is the weighted average. And then you have the bottom-up estimating. Bottom-up estimating is when you have done your WBS and you have broken down the work packages further into activities, and you are now estimating duration. It's also good for budgeting. Estimate how long will it take to fetch water? How long will it take to mix concrete? How long will it take to pour concrete? How long will it take to allow the concrete to dry before laying blocks? And it is the closest to accurate among all these estimation methods, but it takes a lot of work. And you cannot do the bottom-up estimating when you have not completed your WBS. All right, so I just included this tip. Duration is always based on realistic resource availability, not ideal conditions. So don't answer questions based on ideally, this is how it should be, or this is how we do it in an organization. Look at the questions and see whether they are telling you a resource that is available. For instance, if we are to dig and we would love to use excavator, using excavator, it will take 2 hours. But if we do not get excavator, we have to use man-hour, labor, and that will take 2 days. In your estimation, check whether whether excavator is available before you can say 2 hours. If excavator is not available, please use 2 days, because then you are basing it on the realistic resource that is available. All right? Now, let's go to the next point. Critical path. When it comes to schedule management, especially for predictive, you need to determine your critical path. Now, the first part we did, we identify our activities, and then we sequence them. When you are sequencing, don't sequence with the duration in mind. It's like when you are planning, don't plan with the mindset that I have money or I don't have money. The moment you start thinking I don't have money, you will not be creative. Plan as if you have money, and then when you are done, you look for how to get money to get it done. The same way with the critical part, in sequencing the activities, don't say, okay, this one is 10 days, so it must come first. No, you follow logical order in sequencing. Once you are done with sequencing, then you pick each activity to estimate its duration. After you've done that, you will have your because when you start sequencing, you say, okay, this activity comes first before this, and then once this is completed, this one can start. And that's how you do your network diagram. That's how the network diagram naturally forms. So you don't determine that, okay, for this project, I'm going to have only 3 parts, or I'm going to have only 2 parts. Sorry, my tongue doesn't allow me to pronounce it well. PATHS. paths. So you don't say, okay, this is how this project is going to be 5. No, it is when you are sequencing the activities in the logical manner that the number of paths would come up. Then once you are done, and then you do the estimation of each of the activities, then you look for the flow from start until the end, and then you can count the number of parts you have, and then you determine from the parts you have which of them has the longest duration. So automatically, the one with the longest path in your network diagram is the critical path. And it is the one that shows the earliest or the shortest time your project can be completed. Sometimes it's confusing. So if you have 4 parts and then you realize that the second path is the longest path, that longest path is the earliest the project can be completed, because the remaining 3 parts, when they are completed, the project is not completed because the longest path is yet to be completed. So the longest path in your network diagram is the critical path, and it is the one that will help you to determine or tell the stakeholders or management or your customer that this is how long it will take for us to complete the project. Now we have float. When you draw your network diagram, each activity would have early start, early finish at the top right corner of the activity. At the left side, you have the early start. At the right side, the top corner, you have early finish. And the lower part of the activity, we have late start and late finish. And the difference between the late start and early start will give you float. And the late finish and the early finish will give you float. The float is the time that you can delay an activity without it having an impact on how the ending of the project or the next activity. We have 2 types of float. We have total float and we have free float. Total float has to do with if you delay an activity without delaying the project finish date. It means delaying an activity that will not have impact on the critical path. Now, free float is when you delay an activity without delaying the start of the next activity. So the free float has to do with the next activity. Total float has to do with the finish date of the project. Now, they do not have time. So you cannot say the total float is 2, so let's add it to the duration of the project. No, they do not have it like that. The milestones are used for tracking progress and then helps in stakeholder communication. So when you say a milestone is to concrete, is to lay blocks to lintel level, is to do plastering, is to do roofing, is to do ceiling, is to lay pipe. So once you finish concrete at the foundation, that's a milestone. You report to stakeholders. And you realize that you would have identified your stakeholders at the beginning of the project and analyze the stakeholders. So you have your key stakeholders, you have engaged with them, you know their communication need. That will birth the communication management plan. So you know how frequently you will be communicating with them, what format, what mode, and all that would have been established, and you have it in your communication management plan. And so when you are communicating, milestone is a form of reporting to your stakeholders. Always check for multiple critical path in the exam questions. Sometimes you can have, let's say you have 7 different paths, and 2 parts in this network diagrams will end on the same day. They all have 25 weeks. 25 weeks. It means you have 2 critical paths in the network diagram. So look for them just in case you have. And the third aspect that we are looking at today for scheduling, for schedule management, is scheduling in predictive versus agile. Predictive scheduling. You know that predictive approach is plan-based. It's almost like you know the end from the beginning. What you have to do is clear. I'm to cook a pot of rice to serve 7 people. Very clear. So you would, based on your experience, okay, I need to measure 4 cups All right. In fact, you would have asked, are they men or women? Because we know men will eat more. I mean, normally you have women, some women too that are camping. So that would inform the number of cups you are going to prepare. Oh, I don't want my rice soft. I want it a bit hard. That is now you collecting requirements to determine. So if you have a plate of rice, it must satisfy the requirement. So that's when you ask, how soft do you want it? What about water? Sorry, salt. What type of stew or soup? These are collection of requirements. So it's not enough that you have a scope. You need to collect requirements, and the requirements you collect, they end up becoming acceptance criteria. All right, that once you are done, your customer or stakeholder or management comes and look at it, whatever they are looking at, they are trying to tick the acceptance criteria. And once they say, yeah, this was what we asked you to do, that means they have validated the scope. There's difference between verifying scope and validating scope. That's topic for another day. So yes, so for predictive, once you maybe you did your bottom up estimating, you estimated your activity from the work packages, you aggregated this activity is 1 week, that activity is 2 weeks and everything. You have your critical path, that becomes your baseline. And that is what you'll be measuring performance against. You'll be measuring planned value against actual. So if you say the project, the critical part is 6 months, at the end of third month, based on what you have done, you should have done this amount of work. So that becomes the actual. So you use the plan, the PV, which is EV. You use the CV, schedule variance, SV, which is EV minus PV, for you to be able to tell how you are faring. And so that becomes the baseline. Now, that's why we say it's an approved version of schedule model. If you have to change anything concerning the schedule, it would have to go through the change control board that you would have put in place at the beginning of the project. As is controlled through perform integrated change control. So you cannot say, okay, the schedule baseline is 6 months, but let me just add this activity, just change it to 7 months. That is what happens a lot when you have variation. But for you as a project manager, it has to go through the performance integrated change control. Now, what it means is for whatever request that would have impact on the schedule, you as the project manager and your team need to analyze it. And so you present the analyzed request to the change control board, and they will now decide that, okay, it doesn't matter, we give you 1 month more, or no, we cannot give you 1 month more. So we'll reject the change request and go on with what we need to do. If you type, I'm unable to read what you type, it will. Sorry, man. Okay, so that is the only way. So when you have question that is talking about a change request was made, ensure that you investigate, you estimate the impact before presenting it to the change control board before it is accepted. Once it is accepted, you will now update all the corresponding documents. So you don't just accept without going through this process. And then once it's accepted, the earlier scheduled baseline will no longer be the baseline. You will now have a version 2. And that is where version control is important. Now, for every change request, whether accepted or not, you have to input it in the change log, right? And the tools that you will use for predictive scheduling is Gantt chart, which is very, very easy when you use the MS projects. I've learned people can just use Excel to do that. And of course, use the critical path to determine the baseline, schedule compression. The 2 ways you can compress schedule, maybe something just came up and they say, oh, instead of the 6 months, we don't have 6 months, we have to finish this project in 5 months. How do? You crash or you fast track. Crashing means that maybe your team members were doing 4 hours a day. You can say, okay, do overtime. Do overtime. You do maybe 8 hours, or you bring additional hands. Let's say 4 people are going to do it for 2 weeks. Then you say, okay, 8 people. Then maybe it will reduce to 1 week. So that is crashing. Fast tracking is where you look for activities that you can run concurrently. Bear in mind that all these two schedule compression exposes the project to some risk. So you have to be careful when you are using this. So that is for predictive, you plan. Agile, we know, is change driven, and you cannot plan from beginning to end for Agile. So you work based on iterations or sprints. One thing you should know about iteration has to do with Agile, and then Sprint has to do with Scrum, and they are very, very similar. One thing you should know about these iterations and sprints is that they are time boxed. So if you have a team that is working on an adaptive methodology, they would have fixed or time boxed iterations. Maybe it's every 1 week, or every 2 weeks, or every 3 weeks. So it means when they pick the value or user stories from the product backlog, and they break it down into the work to produce them, which will now become the iteration or sprint backlog. They have 3 weeks. If their sprint is 3 weeks, they have 4 weeks. If their sprint is time boxed for 4 weeks, they have 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, or every 3 weeks, or every 4 weeks, or every 1 week, they would deliver or end an iteration. And this is based on the team members, because the sprint is based on the velocity of each of the team, and that velocity is dependent on the story points the team can complete within the time boxed period. So for Agile, scope is flexible. It's flexible in the sense that the customer can always give feedback and say that, okay, out of the user stories, the values that I have in the product backlog, I've changed my mind based on competition. I no longer want this. I want the one that is on point 24 to be the first one. And so the scope is flexible, but time is fixed. That's the time box for the iteration. Also know that changes, even as we are saying, is flexible. You cannot change anything that is ongoing in an iteration. So let's say the iteration is every 3 weeks, and we are 1 week into an iteration, and the customer just says, I have an idea, I want to change. You can update what is in the product backlog, add whatever new ideas you have into the product backlog, but you cannot bring it into the ongoing iteration. So what happens if what they are working on is no longer relevant to the customer? You end the iteration so that you can reprioritize the product backlog, and you pick what is now of interest to the customer, and then you work on it. And of course, the backlog experiences continuous refinement based on what the customer wants. The product owner would continue to populate the product backlogs, continue to prioritize it, and it is a prioritized and the reprioritized product backlog that will be presented to the development team or the project team to pick what they can work on in the iteration. And these are some tips. Predictive has fixed scope, and they have flexible resources. They also have flexible time to meet scope. That is why often we have cost overrun, schedule overrun, and predictive for their fixed scope. While for adaptive or agile, they have fixed time based on their iteration, and they have fixed resources but flexible scope. And the scope is working towards how the customer wants to see value. So I am done with the schedule management. Now let's look at exam tips and takeaways. 1, always perform impact analysis before accepting schedule changes. Don't say that a key stakeholder came and whatever the stakeholder said, you just accept. Perform impact analysis. Understand it, because this is what you will present to the change control board, okay, for accepting. And then 2, agile uses forecasting. Predictive uses baseline. So when you see baseline, it's almost always for predictive. Excuse me. And then agile will use forecast that is listed in the product backlog. Milestones have 0 duration. So completing foundation is 0. I mean, the foundation itself is 0, but the work that goes into getting the milestone done is what we have duration. And then when you hear leads and lags, leads is how long do you have to start an activity early, and lag mean how long do you have to delay an activity from you starting an activity that will not impact the critical part. All right, so this is the flow. You need to define your activities. You need to sequence the activities in a logical manner, and then now estimate how long each of the activity will take, and then you sum them up for you to now have the duration, and then you control. Controlling meaning the critical part, if it is 25 weeks, it remains 25 weeks. You don't get to 27, 26 weeks. So yes, this is one of my favorite slides. I'm encouraging you that as you prepare for the PMP, you can do it. I trust you, because I failed my PMP at first sitting. I keep saying it. It was overconfident. I didn't see the need to use simulator, and boom, 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 I failed. Total House, if you're in Accra, they came to take me out. I couldn't. For the life of me, I couldn't believe I failed. I'm an engineer managing project for years and all that. I failed. And what I try to do, one of my missions is to empower you, to encourage you, to give you the motivation that you need, that you can do it, so that the pitfalls that I fell into, I don't want you to fall into it. That is the motivation behind this power session with Jumoke. And from here now, let's look at the questions I have for you. There are 10 questions, and you know how we do it. I will show you the questions. I will give you a few seconds whilst you drop your answers in the chat box, and then I would review the answers. And I'm live on TikTok. I hope my audience on TikTok would also attempt the questions whilst yes, they attempt the questions as well. Before we go into the questions, do you have any questions for me? Do you have any question for me? Okay, I'm assuming no question. Now let's roll. Let's have the questions now. This is question 1. Let me see if those on TikTok can see the question. I think they can. In the defined activities process, what is the primary input? Activity list, schedule baseline, WBS and WBS dictionary, scope statement. Oh yeah, start dropping your answers. Thanks, my TikTok people. Thanks for joining. Keep giving me likes, share, and let others join. And follow me if you are yet to be following. Please drop your answers as well here. Oh, you are 20. I've only seen 2 answers. Please, I don't want to open it too, so that those on TikTok will not copy you. So let me count to 5, and then we'll look at the answer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let me first spy the answer you gave. A, C, A. Yeah, it looks like somebody changed his mind, though. C. Damilola. Damilola. Damilola, can you tell us why you changed to C?
Okay, so good evening. I
Good
picked
evening.
I picked A first, and then I remembered that it's an output, not an input. But one question I want to ask is, in the exam, if one has this kind of scenario, do you have the opportunity to correct your answers? Because I had to laugh at myself that, hey, if this was in real life scenario, would I have the opportunity to correct myself?
Yes, in the exam, you can go forward and backward. And I
Okay.
do that a lot. Maybe I'll just remember. You see, as you're answering the question, you come across the question and you feel that,
Mm,
if this is the answer, then it means what I chose earlier is wrong. Then you can
mm.
go back. Then
Okay. Okay.
in the exam too, you have the opportunity to mark.
Mm,
So sometimes I answer a question and I'm not very sure. I mark, then I'll continue
mm.
and come back
Come
to
back to those
like,
ones. Okay.
yes, so yeah.
Okay.
Let's
Thank
check.
you.
Welcome. Let's check what the answer is. Oh, it is C. WBS is almost useless without its corresponding dictionary. So they go hand in hand. So if you're an engineer, you know what a schematic diagram is. You just see lines. But in the dictionary, you will see what this line means, what maybe you see 1.1. What is 1.1? What activity is that? What is the attribute and all that? So yes, cannot be activity list. As Damlola rightly said, activity list is output of defined activities. Schedule baseline. You need to have the activities before you schedule baseline. Scope statement is the scope of the project, So yes, this is the answer. WBS and WBS dictionary provide the basis for defining activities. Now let's go to question 2. If activity A has early start is ES, day 5, that's 5 days, and duration equals 4 days, and late start has day 8, what is the total float? Remember, we looked at total float, we look at free float. 0 day, 1 day, 3 days, 4 days. Let's have the answers. Fast. Hello, my folks on TikTok. I've not seen answer. Thanks for the likes, though. Please keep liking and follow me if you are yet to be following. But drop your answers. I want to see your answers as well. Yes, people of God, this I mentioned the formula. I want to see who remembers. So I'll give you 5 more seconds. I want to see more answers. And one thing about the exam, you will not be penalized for wrong answer. So it's better you guess and answer questions you are not sure about than to leave it blank. Who knows? Your guess may be correct. Thanks, G's, for the like. Augustina, thanks for the like. But can you answer the question? Anobia, thanks for liking. You can also share the live for more people to join. Okay, so I have 5 bold people who responded. Hey, Nicholas. Damilola has instructed me to not ask how. Hey, Damilola, did you guess? You are right, Sha. Remember the formula. Late start minus early start, or early start late start minus early start, or late finish minus early finish? Yes, so yes, it's correct. Let's go to question 3. A project has 2 parallel paths. Parallel, the arrows. So path 1 has 10 days, maybe activity 1 has 10 days, activity 2, 5 days, activity 3, 8 days. Then path 2 has activity 1 has 9 days, activity 2, 7 days, activity 3, 9 days. What is the critical path duration out of these 2? This one is Coco. It's Coco Cra. I'm expecting everyone to answer this. Everyone, if you want PDUs, if you are certified and you're on this call and you want PDUs, I beg you, send me your first, don't take screenshots of your dashboard. First name, right? Last name, right? PMI ID, right? And send it to me today. I beg you. So what do you do for this? Let me see. I see B. Okay. The answer is 25 days. All you need to do is to add the duration of the activities. 10 plus 5, that's 15, plus 8, that's 23. Yes. And then 9 plus 7, that's 16, plus 9, that's 25. So out of the 2, the second part has the longest duration. And we said that critical path is the one with the longest duration or longer duration. So it's 25. Thank you for getting it right. And question 4, your sponsor wants to know the significance of a milestone date in the schedule. You explain: A, it represents a fixed duration task. B, it marks a key event and has 0 duration. C, it is always on the critical path. D, it can be delayed without affecting the schedule. What's the answer? Yeah, Anobia has answered this one. Okay, let me check from my friends on Zoom. Okay, it represents a fixed. Let's see. Anobia, you are right. For my friend on TikTok, and then for those on the Zoom call as well, it marks a key event and has 0 duration. I was so sure everybody will get this because I explained it not too long ago that the milestone itself does not have duration. It is the activities that will birth the milestone that do have duration. Yes, so milestones are 0 duration points of significance. Question 5. In a network diagram, activity C has free float of 2 days and total float of 5 days. What does this mean? A, it can start 5 days later without affecting the project. B, it can delay its successor by 5 days. C, it can delay its successor by 2 days without affecting critical path. D, it cannot delay without affecting the project. I remembered explaining free and total float. So Anobia, will you try it? Will have answered though. Let me spy. I see B. It's like okay, I see BB and C. For you to send your information, you will see a QR code shortly. Just scan and it's a WhatsApp. It will open and give you chance to chat with me. So you send it via WhatsApp to me. Yes, let me clap for those who got it right. Total float has to do with how long you can delay an activity that it will not impact the duration of the entire activity, while free float has to do with how long you would delay an activity, that will not affect the succeeding activity. So free float is the allowable delay without impacting the successor. So it has to do with the next activity, but total float will have impact on the duration of the entire project. So the free float is the 2 days that you can delay when to start the next activity. Question 6. In Agile, velocity is used primarily to measure team productivity over time, log schedule baseline, determine sprint length, and predict final budgets. Let's do this quickly so that we'll finish under 1 hour. I know, right, Anobia? Try the next question. Try this question. In Agile, velocity is used primarily to Okay, let's look at the answers. Measure team productivity over time. Velocity forecast feature delivery pace. That's what tells the number of story points the team will be able to complete within the iteration. Question 7. In Agile, what is the equivalent of a predictive milestone? Retrospective, sprint backlog, velocity, release. As I was setting the question, I was like, oh, I'm tilting more towards adaptive this time around. Yes, let's have the answers. Forgive me, Paddy. I'm not sure which of the questions this answer is for. Okay. Ooh. D, B, B, D, A, D, D. Sorry. Damlola, be careful. Damlola, you are not confused. It's okay. Sometimes the questions can be... Okay, so this is my strategy when I'm writing any PMI exam. I'm consciously taking deep breath. I breathe through my nose really, and I exhale through my mouth continuously to calm myself down. It can be, one can be apprehensive writing the exam while you are thinking, hey, make money, no waste, though, yeah. And then the effort you have put in preparation, you don't want it to fail. Can someone unmute their mics and tell me why they chose the option they chose for question 7?
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
Okay. So I will give you the reason why I chose the response D amongst all the choices that are there. the release is like the output in terms of an agile work, in terms of if the agile team, if they have done their work, the release is like the output. So in terms of the question asking for the milestone, I think release would be the best response to me.
Okay. Thank you. And it's right. When I'm training, I'm mindful of letting my students know that an iteration may not lead to a release. Let me use WhatsApp. Is my all-time favorite example. When WhatsApp first came, each time you were asked to update so that you can have access to maybe a new release or something, that update that you did, that you are enjoying, it could actually be multiple iterations. So they do the iterations. And so you ask, so how would they know they have ended an iteration? You have definition of done. So as you are starting an iteration, the team would determine with the product owner and the customer that once we are able to do this, we are done. It's like maybe you are cooking. You want to steam your meat before you fry, before you do your stew. When you are the end result is stew. When you check your meat, whether it's tender enough is definition of done. So once it is tender enough, you put the stove off, you are finished with the steaming meat, but do you have stew yet? No. Then you will fry. As you are turning, you have definition of done in your head that this is how brown you want the meat to be when you are frying. Or even if you are using air fryer, you pull the tray out to see whether it has the look you want. Is the stew done? No. So you cannot release stew. Then you blend your pepper and everything, you cook it for a while. You at the point you add your meat, it's also a form of definition of done. Then you add your meat, you stir, you add your spices. Once you get the perfect, according to your overall definition of done, you put the stove off and then you present your stew. That is a release. But you see the number of iterations that we did before getting to release. So it amounts to milestones. You can tell I like food because my examples are always food-based. All right, question 8. When using rolling wave planning, what is planned in detail? If anyone got this thing wrong, I would enter the internet and bite you because I said this. A, entire project scope upfront. B, near-term work packages. C, all milestones from start to finish. And D, critical path activities only. Yes. So let me give you 5 seconds more. Like I said, attempt, just answer. It's okay to get it wrong. And whatever you have in mind could actually be the right answer. So 5 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Near-term work packages. I remember rolling wave, I said that the near activity, I use the bathroom, that you cannot start projects, you are digging, you are thinking of the color, you want to plan the color of paint you are going to use for your bathroom. No. You see, so yes, near work terms is what you plan into details. Near term work detail, far term high level. Like the bathroom, you know that you will paint, but you'll not be thinking of the kind of paints, the name, and all that. Okay. Question 9. You are fast tracking your project schedule. Which is the most likely risk? A, increased cost. B, reduced quality. C, increased rework. D, loss of stakeholder confidence. Thanks for joining my live, Mila, May. Please double tap, give me some likes, and share for more to join. SCN, thanks for joining. Okay. Hey, only 4 answers. I need more. One of the ways to answer questions is also looking at each of the options. When you are fast tracking, and you may not remember crashing, fast tracking, running the activities in parallel is fast tracking. Crashing is when you put more people on the work or you make them work more hours. And we say that both would expose the project to a risk. Let's say people who work 8 hours, and you're saying they should do extra or overtime. When you are fatigued, you will be making avoidable mistakes. And the avoidable mistakes can lead to errors. And when it leads to errors, which out of this option would it result to? It will result to rework. Rework is you have already done it, but because of error, you are now correcting something that went wrong. And rework is somewhat better. If it becomes scrap, it means it can be redeemed. It's like cooking and you added too much salt. But some people have a way of reducing it, so increased cost, not necessarily reduce quality. It may not reduce quality, but it could lead to rework, errors that could be avoided. So overlapping tasks increases rework risk. Question 10, and that's the last question. In a predictive project, you discover a non-critical task as -2 days of total float. What does this mean? A, the project is ahead of schedule. B, the project completion date is delayed. C, there's a schedule constraint causing delay. D, the task must start earlier than planned. Yes, 10 seconds. So I'll count 1, 2, 7, 8, 9, 10. Why you people don't want to answer this question? Why? -2 means there is a time overrun. We are spending more time than you're supposed to, so there's delay. There's delay. And total float has to affect the entire project. So be cool. You see, negative float means schedule constraints, delay. Please.
Ma, can you explain number 10? When you say -2, I was thinking that would mean it has like you don't have delay, but you are maybe probably ahead of schedule or something like that. And then you also, the question says non-critical task. So I'm a little confused.
Okay, so negative is actually -2. If it is plus,
Yes.
then it means you are ahead of time. So let's say you are supposed to spend 10 days on an activity, you have plus 2 days, and you have completed the activity. This means you have 2 days left. You completed the task ahead of time. So the fact that it's non-critical, if people went to work and they're on WhatsApp and they're supposed to start a task and they did not do it, it's a non-critical task, but they've allowed it to affect the schedule. When you don't do what you're supposed to do at the right time, all the activities cannot or will not be critical. But if you don't do them, or for some reason, well, they didn't tell us what caused the delay. It could be that maybe the resource they needed was not given to them. Could be anything. Whatever the reason or the cause is, was not mentioned here, but the outcome or the result has led to us spending 2 extra days. So if the critical part was 12 days, at this point, it has increased to 14 days.
The 14, okay.
Yes. So that is the schedule overrun. So when you do your SV, the schedule variance, we say if you subtracted PV minus earned value, and it is 0, it means what you plan and what you are doing, the end value is the same, so you are on track. But if you subtracted EV from PV and you got negative, it means that what you plan and what you are doing is not the same. If I subtracted 4 from 2, I'll get -2. Does it make sense? So negative Sha is
Yes, it does. Thank
is
you.
welcome. So like I said, please scan this. I have a WhatsApp channel. This is for the WhatsApp channel, but this is for you to send your names. Please send first name, because that is how I will fill the form. First name, last name, PMI ID, not PMP ID. For people who have multiple certifications, the moment you put your PMI ID, it will assign PDUs, the relevant PDUs, to all the certifications. If you give me your PMP ID, it is someone else's PMI ID in a different country, and the person will get your PDU. And please send it to me now. You can follow me on Instagram. I appear on Instagram as Jumoke Lafenwa. I think even for PMI, I'm only Lafenwa. And I'm on YouTube as Jumoke Lafenwa, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube as Jumoke Lafenwa, on TikTok as at Jumoke Lafenwa. You see me there. On why didn't I include X, formerly Twitter, is at JumiB2. All right. Now, let me take your questions if you have any question for me. Any question for me?
Yes, I do. Yes, so a quick question. As we read the questions that you gave from your simulator, I observed that sometimes most of the questions have 2 answers that can really be identical. So I thought to ask you what can you advise? I mean, if you have like 2 answers that are really the same, what methodologies you think one can use to be able to find the best answer?
All right. Thank you very much. As you go along studying, you will realize that there are actually no 2 answers. So what I do is, first of all, I eliminate the options that are outrightly wrong. And then I look at the 2 that are left and You know, the more you answer questions, the more you read, the more you join sessions like this, the better you become at outrightly eliminating the ones that are wrong. What I also tell my students is look at options that speak to PMI's values: win-win situation, ethical approach. If it is in fact, whether predictive or adaptive, you are working with people, you have to be kind, you have to be considerate, you have to be a collaborative leader, you have to communicate well, you have to ask questions before you solve any problem that is presented to you. You have to understand the problems. That's when you would investigate the problem. You understand the problem before you start solving. Often we analyze the problem in our head and we look for answer. But PMI wants that analysis you did in your head. You should pick it from the option. Maybe investigate, estimate, analyze. Okay. And so you look for things like that. If a change request is made, you have to conduct analysis to know the impact before you make decision. If it would impact, even whether impact or not, you have to go through the change control board. I mean, these are the things you need to understand and pick options that aligns to it. As you are reading your questions, you are looking at this question: is it a predictive setting, or is it adaptive setting, or is hybrid? If it is hybrid, it will have components of both predictive and adaptive in it. If it is predictive, then you are not looking for product backlog, sprint iteration. If it is adaptive and you see extensive planning, anywhere you say extensive planning, whether at the beginning, in the middle, it is not adaptive or agile. So these are some of the things that will guide you, and always looking for what you satisfying or pleasing your customers, of course, in line with PMI's principles. Those are some of the things that will guide you in selecting your right answer. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Most welcome. And I can assure you, one of the assured, guaranteed way of passing PMP is through practice questions. And get good one. Pay for it. Some people will ask me, Jumoke, can you give me your questions? In fact, there was a time somebody said, oh, the question, I should increase it to 50. I'm like, this is what I'm using. It's a business, okay? And if I've given you 5 or 10, I think for free, most of you are not my students, but it's just my commitment in helping people pass their PMP. That's why I'm doing what I do. So get a simulator, an interactive simulator. My simulator.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Do you have like a score that you suggest that one reaches in a simulator before, you actually see the exam, or recommend a score? What do you think?
Please, I sell simulator. I I am a trainer. I'm an ATP instructor. My company is an ATP partner with PMI. Maybe next time I should put my badge. I am an ATP instructor for PMP, for CAPM, for ACP, for RMP. I'm about to become CP, that's a construction professional. Yeah, so I have a simulator for it's interactive. Interactive means it's time boxed. So if you did the 100 questions, it's 120 minutes. When it's 120 minutes, it will log you out. That's what PMP will do when you are writing PMP exam. And when it does that, it will score you, let you know what your score is, and then the justification. So I tell people, when you attempt the first one, review. Review means you have access to the answers, and then it has scored you that maybe you scored 40%, and I say, this answer you got, this question you got it right, this one you got it wrong, this is the answer. I take it as study time. So I don't do review when I don't have time. Reviewing time is when I take my pen and I make notes, because I don't want to memorize the answer. I want to understand the principles behind the answer, so that when I come across similar questions, I'll be able to answer. And I have multiple of such exams, and my students do well for those who use the simulator. So of course, I sell simulators.
My question was, I'm sorry. My question was, is there any like a recommended score that you hope the participant achieve before trying to sit the exam from the simulator, the score, like the grade that they achieve before being confident to sit the exam? That was my question.
Want a school, I should recommend a school.
That's what I'm asking you. If there is
No,
any
he's
school
saying
that you
score,
represent.
score. Your score, the score.
Yeah.
Like the success rate.
Yes, if you
Yeah,
maybe
sure,
50%,
Yeah,
20%.
70, 75, 60%. That was my question.
Okay, I thought I had school. Okay. See, I know people who scored like 80% of the exam, but later I realized that they were memorizing the answer. You see that when you have the first exam and it marks you and you look at it, some memorize that, okay, this question is D. And if you are doing it objectively without memorizing and you got 70% of my simulator, I don't know the simulator you are using, but my simulator, you pass the exam.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Yes, any other question? Thank you, Damilola. Score. Yes, I'm not sending link. Oh, this person, Regina, I'm not sending link. So you have to send me your first name, your last name. That's for those who are certified. That's if you are certified and you need the PDUs. Oh, Damilola. It's not that I'm concerned about Damilola. I just read. Okay, let me be saying Nehemiah. Nehemiah is a prophet in the Bible. All right, looks like you don't have any question for me today anymore. So Nehemiah, Damilola, let me look at all the names on the call today. Some people have dropped. Adekolade, Alberto, Irabna, Ernest, Ofe, Evans, Felicia, Buedu, Jennifer, Khalid, Moses, Nicholas, Ni, Oforiwa, Okpeyemi, Peter, Rakiatu, Yaira. Thanks for joining. If you have my WhatsApp number, I am invested, I'm committed in helping people pass PMP. So I have a group for those who say that they don't mind my wahala. You can join that group and let's work together in getting you certified this year. You can do it. You can do it. So, and I'll be uploading this recording on YouTube. Maybe tomorrow I will share the link if you want to watch it again. And I have the 13 series, like this is the 14th one. So it means 1 to 3 is on the YouTube. You can watch it. And you can also follow because it's on my official page. Please do follow, share with people to join. God bless you. Put in the effort, put in the work, and I guarantee you that you will pass. If I could pass. And yes, on that note, I say good night. Since you don't have any question for me, good night. And God bless you and get certified, okay? All right, so bye. Say bye-bye.